What is good? We're back. And we got players I can't stop drafting. Chev, what's up, man? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great today, Casey. How are you?
Oh, jolly gee, just fine, you know? Stellar. Swell, I suppose, would be the great.
I'd like to tell you something too, buddy.
What is it, pal?
Any day on this side of the dirt's a good one, brother.
All right, bucko, you got it. Gee willikers. Let's start talking about some guys that we can't stop drafting, right? This is so excited.
Heck yeah.
So for real, today we are going to talk about, basically guys that we like through a lot of mocks and drafts that we've been through and guys that we've been pushing the button on. And we'll have the other side of this, guys that we are avoiding. And that's sure to get you guys fired up. So we're going to run through, 4 to 6 guys here, tell you what we like, where we like them, and why we like them. Chev, I think you should jump out to this one first. I think your guy's a little higher in ADP than my two. So Chev, who you got?
Well, it's been time is a flat circle. So I've been in, I've been out, and now I'm back in. Quarterback.
Ooh.
One of the most polarizing figures. Actually, I would say he's not even polarizing anymore. Everybody's just kind of turned the page on him.
Yeah.
So I can't stop clicking the button on Kyler Murray.
These are my favorite kind of ones to get in on, because once everybody turns their back, and there's probably still some juice left, and they probably turn their back for some not great reasons, just because, for whatever reason they fell out of love with him, right?
It's the same. It's basically the same refrain as you're gonna get for Marvin Harrison, the guys who are unequivocally out, who are taking victory laps on. Well, I had Ladd McConkey ahead of Marvin Harrison as a prospect, and I had Marvin Harrison was my wide receiver 5 in this class. Mm-hmm. Those same people are the same people who hate Kyler now. Now we're talking about Kyler. He was 10th in total fantasy points, 14th in fantasy points per game. He was 18 fantasy points per game. He had 357 yards on scrambles and 2 touchdowns. That number is almost guaranteed to go up this year. He said he wants to run more, finished 4th amongst quarterbacks with rushing yards of 572. And it feels like a massive disappointment. And I think that it's because people have some sort of fatigue, because we all see the wheels, we all see the talent. There was a time where people were saying that, well, you should take Kyler over Lamar Jackson in Dynasty because he's got the rushing floor and he's a better thrower of the football. Where are those people now? And the thing is Kyler has just since that point just become an eternal meme. First it's the Call of Duty, then it's the little short, the short people memes. And he's 5'10". Yeah, I get it. But the dude won the freaking Heisman. He's been a top elite, top 3 scorer at the position before. Mm-hmm. And now being able to get him as my quarterback too, if I'm able to secure one of the top guys in the first round, if I'm a top 6 pick, and I secure one of those guys, Kyler's the perfect complement. So you look at it, you go running back, you go quarterback, stud quarterback, hammer quarterback, and you might go a running back in the second round, choose your adventure. Then you come through in the third round, you made a tight end premium, you might grab Sam Laporta, you might grab George, and then Kyler Murray's sitting there right for you at the 404. Mm-hmm. Average 404 ADP. So looking at that and seeing kind of the sentiment, I did a poll on Twitter and saying, hey, do you think it's more likely for Kyler Murray to finish outside the top 12 in scoring this year or inside the top 6? And the overwhelming majority, almost 70% of people said outside of the top 12. And I feel like that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kyler Murray's my guy here. And I can't stop drafting Kyler Murray at the current ADP.
Yeah, which is 404 right now for FFD ADP Superflex tight end premium, right? And I agree with you. I like it. And we alluded to some things before we started talking, and we've been kind of talking about Marvin Kyler for a couple of weeks now, just behind the scenes. And I think you hit it on the head. You saw him with Kingsbury and really take off. And then we just haven't seen the next steps, and it's easy to find the reasons why, and does he love it? And that's always the question. I'm not really sure 100% that Kyler Murray is in it as much as, say, Jaden Daniels, who we just saw as a rookie come in and take over with Cliff Kingsbury. But I do wonder if, like, when Kyler came in, Kingsbury came in, that offense got stale, but that offense was like a lot of kind of very familiar with Kyler, right? Kind of the fundamentals and how it gets ran and what they were doing were like very Kyler-esque. So like I felt like it probably came really easy to him. He didn't have to, put the training wheels on at any time. He just went out there and did what he always did. And now we've kind of reset with Petzing, and this was year 2, and now we're going into year 3. And to me, maybe we can liken the situation a little bit like a Greg Roman, right? Like, Lamar came in and had Greg Roman, who put good training wheels on him, but it gets stale, and then you have to change. And now we're in third year of Monken, and we're real excited about Lamar. And we've seen Lamar's value fluctuate all over the place in Dynasty, right? People were in, people were out. And I think Kyler could be kind of the same. I don't think the Ravens are the Cardinals are as good of an organization as Baltimore is, right? So he has that working against him. But we thought the Cardinals were going to be dumpster juice last year, and they weren't, right? Gannon and Petzing might not be the company to take him to the promised land, but I think they can get him out of the cellar dwellers, right? And I think this offense that Petzing is running is not something that Kyler would be totally familiar with. Like, they're running a lot of bigger sets. They're running a lot of 13 and 12, just not 11 and 4 wides and spread it out and they're doing things a little bit different. And Petzing's learning, right? He's not a seasoned veteran of play calling per se. So we hope the system keeps developing, but they definitely want to establish it, and they want to play some decent defense. And I thought Kyler had really good stretches last year. Look, at the end of the day, Kyler does things that very, very few quarterbacks in this league can do. And I'll continue to bet on him in fantasy, because even if he isn't the Cardinals quarterback for whatever reason, like, he's not going to be out of the league on his next contract, right? And I think he'll stay in that 4 to 7 range in fantasy if he doesn't do anything else crazy from where he's been the last few years, right? So I think it's fairly safe. I think he has room to even go up and improve in value. As the Cardinals improve, he could be taking steps with him. So I'm with you, man. I like the Kyler pick. And I don't mind drafting him either. 4th round Kyler seems like, man, 12th. He was around 12 in points per game last year. Is that right?
So he was 14th in points per game looking at the Fantasy Pro scoring here, standard scoring, 18.1 points per game, 10th in total fantasy points. But I think that could take a massive step forward. I mean, it just doesn't. Drew Petzing and that mind meld, they have to kind of take a step forward in terms of either their pace or the pass, game. Situation neutral pass rate. They were so James Conner heavy, it kind of limits your opportunities. Marv only saw 116 targets. Trey McBride was the primary target in the offense because they're just kind of checking it down, staying ahead of the chains, and then feeding James Conner. So it requires an offensive shift to get him into that, back into that elite tier where you're talking top 5, top 6, on a points per game basis, and then finishing as a top 5 quarterback on the season. But I still think that his legs could get us there.
Yeah. We don't even need him to get back into that level of scoring top 5 points week in, week out. We just need the overall stigma of him to improve, because I think he's going to float in that 12 to 8 range of QBs just from a baseline of what he can do with his legs, because his acceleration and his rushing ability is right up there with anybody else. And then on top of that, the scrambling ability to then reset and throw is amazing, right?
Yes.
It's so good. And I watched a bunch of Kyler before we did this show. Dude, Marv was out there cooking guys as his first year playing in the big boy role, not moving them around. So they do need to get a little more creative, move Marv around. And you saw at the end of the season, Kyler looked a little dejected and was like, hey, me and Marv, we got to get together. We're going to be together all summer. We're going to be working through this thing. So I think as Petzing, Marv, and Kyler all come together with McBride, I think this unit can make another step forward. So I like it, man. And we just got to improve the stigma of Kyler and get another point a game gets him into air where people are way more excited about him, and the Cardinals just not being a a bad perception team for a lot of people. I think would change some stuff as well as far as his value goes. So, all right.
We'll be back with more FFD after a short commercial break. If you're as serious as we are about Dynasty, you gotta be playing on FFPC. They are now the proud home of over 2,000 Dynasty leagues, and not a single league has ever folded. Incredible. Drafts are kicking off every day, so go over to myffpc.com and take your game to the next level. New users get $25 off their first league using code FFD. Holler at your boys.
We'll keep it moving here. There's plenty of guys I could say I click the button on. We've been doing this since December, talking about non-football playing things. And so we've covered a lot of guys. I'm sure I've touched on Chris Olave before, but he is someone in all formats. This is a Dynasty show, of course, but best ball, redraft, and Dynasty, I find myself pressing the button on Chris Olave all the time. Right now, he's an RADP 612 and Superflex tight end premium Dynasty, but best ball, he's going in like the 7th round. Redraft right now, he's around the 7th round. So he's kind of in the same spot in a lot of places. And I keep smashing the button. Look, the concussions are the concussions. It sucks. That's terrible. Derek Carr is somewhat responsible for some of these hospital ball actions. And we don't know what the quarterback situation is moving into this year. Is Shuck any good? We don't know. Is Rattler any good? We don't know. Is Haener any good? We don't know. But Olave, from times that he's played full seasons, he's been a 23 or more target share earner, right? He didn't finish this past season, but he still had some decent games in there. And he actually played a game with Rattler and Haener, I believe, and had like 8 catches, over 100 yards. So like playing with junk quarterbacks, I believe that was Chargers game, maybe.
Mm-hmm. It was his only wide receiver 1 finish in 2024, I believe.
Playing with junk quarterbacks. So like he can come in there and I'm just thinking like Giants and Malik Neighbors, right? And it doesn't even need to be on the level of what Malik Neighbors was getting last year. It just needs to be half decent. And Dennis Allen is a terrible head coach. Good defensive coach, terrible head coach. Do I know if Kellen Moore can be a good head coach? I don't know, but I've seen Kellen Moore go around the league and work with good quarterbacks and produce good offensive functions. The Chargers stop a little, but also bad head coach, bad leadership, right? Goes right back over to Philadelphia, turns that ship around, and they go to the Super Bowl, right? And now he's over in Saints land. And what the Saints were doing last year was running a bunch of bigger sets. They had Kubiak in there. In the beginning of the season, it was really working. Those first 2 games, Saints were crushing it, right? Absolutely slapped Dallas. And then who was the
Carolina?
Week one. Yeah. And then we'll get hurt, wheels fall off. But like they're going to switch back from being in a lot of these big sets, running the 12s and the 21s and the 13s. That Kubiak thing, that's all going to go to Seattle. Kellen Moore is going to come back in. He's going to be above league average in running 11, right? So they're going to get out there. They're going to throw it around. They're going to figure some stuff out. Kellen Moore's been calling plays with Dak and CD, with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Olave has averaged more than 2 yards per route run basically his whole career. He's had 10 double-digit ADOT his whole career. He's had 1,000 yards every year he's played. Like, this is just a really simple, easy bet to me. Like, we can bet on the concussions. I don't know. The 7th round has the concussions factored in there a little bit. He could never have a concussion again for the rest of his life. We don't know. Like, so right. I'm going to take the discount here. This should be a 3rd-round player. It's been a 3rd-round player. I think Chris Olave is great. I think he's a really good player. And the reason I bring up Moore and the system that they're going to run and how they're going to switch things up a little bit is like, I'm not going to say that he's CeeDee Lamb, right? Not by any means, but like Chris Olave has last year ran 70% of his plays out wide, 28 in the slot. The year before that, 59 and 39. So 59 out wide and 39 in the slot. Year before that, 66 wide, 33 slot. If you go back to CeeDee Lamb, when Kellen Moore was there, started off a lot in the slot his first year, 93%, and then moved to more in 2022 or 2021, moved to a more 50-40 split wide slot, right? And then that last year that Kellen Moore was there, where he really started kind of breaking out in that 2022 season where he had 107 targets, 1,300 yards, and 9 TDs, you saw slot percentage go to 62% and 36% out wide. I think we could see a little bit more Chris Olave moving into the slot to gain the best advantage that he can get with his best wide receiver, right? I think Chris Olave will stay outside. I don't think it's going to be 60-30 like CD was in 22, but I think we could get back closer to, a 60-40 or a 55-45 kind of situation where he's moving his guy around to get him in the best situations. And I think he's going to know, hey, this is my best guy. No shot on Shaheed. I think Shaheed's great. No shot on Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks is a really good veteran. But he's going to know, if I'm going to have the best chance out here, I think we're going to be moving Olave around like a chess piece and get him the best advantage that we can. So that's why I gave him. I'm not saying he's CeeDee Lamb. I'm just saying, like, Kellen Moore has experience of playing with CeeDee Lamb and moving him around to best get what he could and figured it out. And then, CD exploded in 20. He was still even good. Like, look, even if you get CeeDee Lamb of 2021, where he had 79 targets, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns, that's great return for what you just paid for Chris Olave, which has been a Chris Olave stat line before, right? So
big time win.
I just think he's going to know how to use Chris Olave is my main point of the comparison, right? And get him in the best situations. And even if the quarterback play isn't great, again, think of those situations like a Malik Neighbors last year. Think of Mac Jones and Brian Thomas, right? When the quarterback's not great, what do? They're gonna pound targets to their best receiver and the guy who's got the best. They're putting in the best advantage to win. So I don't think it needs to be awesome for the Saints offense to be awesome for Chris Olave to be an absolute dog this year.
I'm in complete agreement with you as far as that goes. I would like to point out one thing that gets lost in that whole Kellen Moore Chargers deal because everybody got hurt and died at the end of the season. Keenan Allen was having a career year. A career year. I'm talking 1,243 yards in 13 games. That was his career high, I'm pretty sure, for like his entire career high. And that was in 13 games with Kellen Moore. And so I have a ton of reasons for optimism with Chris Olave. Again, you alluded to the fact that just last year, he was a second or third round. Like, you were talking Chris Olave or Drake London. In best ball, it was Chris Olave was wide receiver 11 or wide receiver 10. Drake London was wide receiver 11. One of those guys hit and broke out, and one of those guys is Chris Olave. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's tremendous value here. You've already got, a 1,000-yard season. He's been productive when consistently. He was productive when consistently targeted last year. And I think that's what I think the hurt is, just the fact that he didn't take that leap forward. It's kind of the same thing. And maybe that's what the theme of the episode is guys that people are leaving for dead that we can't stop drafting. Like, we can't. Chris Olave is really good. I haven't been the biggest Chris Olave fan, but objectively, he's really good at football. Just so the game logs, we don't have the target volume. So we're talking 2 targets in week 1. They blew out Carolina. 6 targets, 4 catches for 81 in week 2.
Shaheed had a bomb or 2 in the first game against Carolina that put it out of reach.
Yeah, both games. Those first 2 games, Shaheed was the man. And, he was 14 points a game last year before his injury cut his season short. But 6 catches, 86 yards and a touchdown against Philly, 10 targets, 8 receptions for 87 against Atlanta.
Yeah, he had a nice chunk.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it just it was never super sexy for fantasy outside of the one game that you pointed out with, I believe that was the Chargers.
I think so.
Yeah. Outside of that, he was basically wide receiver. He was either wide receiver 60 or like wide receiver 30 in somewhere in that range. There's a couple of 21s and, there's a 26, a 21 and a 10, and the rest are outside of the top 60. So for me, I just think that Chris Olave, where he's going right now, is tremendous value because there's no threats as far as who's the alpha. Rashid Shaheed occupies a completely different role. If you want to look at it a certain way, go to the Chargers and look at Rashid Shaheed as the big downfield threat like Mike Williams, and Chris Olave, activating and operating in those short to intermediate areas and being able to get open. and give the quarterback, whoever it is, Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck, an easy button. So
yeah. And by the way, Chris Olave can absolutely fly and win downfield as well. You know? So
4-3 guy for sure.
Right. All right. Who you got next?
My next is someone who's, I feel like we've talked about him almost ad nauseum to this point, and I'm kind of having a come to Jesus meeting with myself about DeAndre Swift. Now, I have been saying in the sell camp for DeAndre Swift, honestly, I don't feel like you can make, unless he goes out and has a career year, you can't make more than a 1 year bet on DeAndre Swift. But if you're going to make a bet on DeAndre Swift, now is the time to do it. And I'm going to tell you why here. So with DeAndre Swift, we've got a team that ran the ball. I want to say that was 431 times
last year.
Team. Yes, last year, the Bears.
Yeah.
430 attempts as a team.
Yeah.
Okay. DeAndre Swift handled 253 of those.
10th in attempts.
Yes. So we've already got the baseline of him operating. Now, you can say, hey, well, Ben Johnson didn't love DeAndre Swift. Hey, DeAndre Swift was 12th in points per game the only time that he got to play with Ben Johnson before they traded him to the Eagles. So he had success with the guy. Now, let's talk about DeAndre Swift. He was 5th among running backs with at least 220 carries and routes run. He was 15th in expected fantasy points, and the Bears offensive line is now rated 14th after being just objectively one of the worst offensive lines we've ever seen. They came within 8 sacks of allowing Caleb Williams to break David Carr's record. They've added Jonah Jackson. They've made some crazy additions to the offensive line. They added Drew Dalman. He's the 5th highest rated center. They added Joe Thuney. He's the 2nd highest rated guard. They added Jonah Jackson. He's the 31st rated guard per PFF. And now both of the tackles are inside of the top 25 in Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. So all of this points to me that they've tried to expedite the build in terms of being dominant in the trenches. And they fortified that offensive line. And that's going to benefit. The one thing we can't be certain of is who's going to be the alpha in the passing game. But I feel like we can operate with a level of certainty about who's going to get the first crack and be the operating as the lead dog in the backfield. And that's DeAndre Swift for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned you can't make more than a 1 year bet on him. And I understand what you're saying as far as the Bears and what his role is going to be. And this may be a swing and a miss, but we're talking about a player that you're drafting currently at 9-12 in Superflex Dynasty tight end premium startups, right? And it's not like he's super old. He's 26. He'll be 27 next year, I believe, or I think so. Maybe January birthday.
26. He's 26. Gonna be 27 next year.
The Bears can get out of his contract, I think, for 1.3 dead, but they can also keep him next year and have him for $8 million, right? Mm-hmm. So he could carry over into next year and maybe be the Robin in an offense here, and then in his 28th year, move on to greener pastures, but he's not going to be dead, right? And you're playing a 10th round, what could potentially be a league winner right here, right? So, if you're productive, struggling, if you're building that kind of build where, hey, I'm going all youth and all these other things, but like, hey, if you're building a roster to try to compete this year, this is a really, really fun shot in the 10th round. And I don't even, it's like you said, you're viewing it as a 1 year thing, but it could turn into like 3 years of pretty solid production from a 10th round pick. And this year it could be league winning.
Yeah, without question. That's the point. Is he could be a league winner, and you're able to get him in 2025, basically in the 10th round, 9-12 in the ADP, like you mentioned before. He could absolutely be a league winner, and I don't know when. So it was not a sexy pick. I was kind of in at first because I thought this Bears offense was going to be better than it was in 2024. But now you look at what they've actually done the work and gotten the offensive line in order. If these guys stay healthy, I'm pretty sure he's going to finish as, probably a top 16 to 18 running back in points per game with a much higher ceiling. Because again, When he was in Detroit, it was the allure of him as a pass catcher and being a complete back and being able to, being explosive. All that fell off a cliff because the offensive line sucked and they couldn't get anything. But he still had 295 opportunities last year. And
just as a whole, the organization was doing Bears things and it was just disconnected at all ends. That's really, we got a rookie quarterback and you got so many signals getting crossed and disconnected. And Shane Waldron's a terrible offensive coordinator. He might be able to draw up plays, but he can't coach. He needs to not be in charge of actually being in charge, right? He needs to be a background guy drawing plays and not communicating with the players, right? Let some other coordinator call the actual sequence of the plays, right? And then you had Thomas Davis, I believe that's his name for a minute.
Thomas Brown,
sorry, who was doing a really good. Thomas Davis is an old Bears running back. Is that
Carolina linebacker in the ring?
There you go. And for a minute, that offense was looking all right, and then they moved him to head coach. And then things just got weird all throughout there. And, all the Caleb stories of watching film by himself, yada, yada. That ain't where you want to be with the team, right? It's just so there's a whole new culture trying to be established over there. So I like it. I like it a lot. So speaking of establishing new cultures, my pick here that I can't stop drafting is Chuba in the 7th. He's going 7-7 right now. Dynasty, Superflex, tight end premium, FFD ADP.
If you're looking for more FFD, sign up for a Patreon or YouTube membership and get access to the ADP, Dynasty rankings, the rookie draft kit, and extra shows every week.
This is like your last shot at a potential workhorse in an improving offense, right? And that's really the big thing here is that week 1, you had Chuba get 6 attempts, we mentioned when we were talking about New Orleans, 6 attempts in that game. Got absolutely slapped by New Orleans coming out the gate, right? Nobody saw that coming. But after that, he was RB1 8 weeks and RB2 3 weeks. So 11 of his, I believe he played 15 games. He missed 17 and 18.
Yes.
So 11 of those
games, yes.
For 4 weeks, he was outside the top 24 in running back points, right? One of those weeks was that slapping by New Orleans. And then 1 week he was RB 36, 1 week he was RB 32, and 1 week against Tampa he scored 2.3 and killed you. But that RB 36 week 8, the RB 32 week 15 was 8.9 and 9.10. That doesn't kill you. It doesn't necessarily win you the week, but it doesn't lose you the week, right? And this offense should move forward. Bryce should take another step. Canales, I really like Dave Canales a lot. Last year, I had to hold my breath for a second, but by the end of the year, you felt a little vindicated from where this team could be going. He was third in attempt percentage, was 68% for them, 10.7 target share, 52 targets in 15 games, right? So not even the full complement of games. Weeks 2 through 15. So I took out the week 1 stinker where they got slapped. Weeks 2 through 15, 16.2 points per game. And we're getting this in the 7th round, right? Everything should be pointing up. I know they brought in Rico Dowdle and they drafted Trevor Etienne, which, I like both players, right? I like Trevor Etienne as, maybe develop into something here. I think Rico Dowdle played really well when he got the role, but I don't think they're going to come in and just have this crazy rotation of players. Like Chuba's still going to get the lion's share of what's going on. And then Rico's going to come in and spell some time. And if Chuba should miss time, I think Rico's a very good backup to fit in there. Frankly, I don't know why Dallas didn't bring Rico back for like the same money they paid Javonte and knew what they were getting and could set him out as an RB1 if that's what they needed to do, right? But I thought that was a good move by Carolina, and that this is what good teams do. They went and got a guy who was fairly cheap to, if something happens to Chuba, we know we got a good backup, but if Chuba needs to be spelled, we got a good player in Rico, right? So I don't think Chuba's in danger of getting a crazy attempt share taken from him. He probably will get a little less, but that's all right. The team should be a little better. So we should offset some of that with everything moving forward, more first downs, more ball movements, more touchdowns. All of those things should flow as the Carolina Panthers move up the chart and getting out of the dumpster here.
Now, I love me some Chuba. We've had group chat discussions where I ask everybody where they're at on Chuba, and I'm like, okay. The public perception on Chuba here is that he's just kind of a jag, and I don't get it.
Right.
I don't get it. That was not jag stuff that he did.
It's a 2,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, this is the first time. This is the first time that he's handled the workload in what we think is a competent offense. Now, Carolina was 7th in run block success rate in 2025. You know, they signed Robert Hunt and the other guard, I forget his name, and they upgraded that O-line. Like, this is what we want. Now, we're talking about Chuba, who handled 80% of the attempts inside the 5 last year. I don't think that's going to change. I think what happens is maybe, you know, Rico Dowdle's going to spell him for a couple series, but they're going to operate. We've seen Dave Canales operate with, you know, Rashad White as the primary ball carrier, no matter how inefficient he was on a per touch basis.
Pumped it in there.
Yeah, he was going to establish it. And he did the same thing with Chuba this past year. And Chuba was great. He was 4.8 a carry. He had 43 receptions. So, yeah, I'm in. He's been one of my auto selects in the 7th round as well. So I'm 100% with you on that.
I like it. All right. Before we end this show with a few more stragglers, a little later round guys, a little bit more lightning round here. We got a winner from our first month of 5-star review contest. Guys, if you aren't doing this, please go ahead and throw your name in the hat of giving 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We got Connor Sabin, number 8. We did a random drawing on Google. The video will be played by Jay Wayne here whilst I'm talking, I believe. So he's going to get his league dues paid up to $100. So we'll be contacting him through his email here. So look out for that. So it's real easy to enter. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review on Spotify. On Apple, you can do both. You can enter your girlfriends or your boyfriends or your dads, or you can get multiple entries here, and then you'll stay in the whole time that we're doing this drawing until football recommences. So make sure you're doing that. We appreciate you guys. And Connor, shout out to you, man. Appreciate you. All right. I got a couple more guys here before we pack up, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, right? I like Michael Pittman coming in at 11.05. He seems like he keeps going down, right? Look, Josh Downs is the hottest thing on them streets right now. Everybody loves Josh Downs now all of a sudden, right? A lot of drumbeat. I like Josh Downs.
Have you seen his reception perception?
Right.
Shout out. Said he was one of the best successful players against man and press coverage.
Shout out to Matt Harmon. Does good work, but it's not the end all be all. And I don't even care about that. All I care about is Michael Pittman is going in the 11th round, and he keeps going further and further down the boards, man. And sometimes he'll be sitting there in the 12th round, and you snap him up. Like, yeah, is Michael Pittman an alpha? Is he a 1A? No. The kids nowadays would say he's more of a beta, But and do we think that some magic elixir is going to happen and the quarterback play is going to be absolutely tremendous there this year? No.
Absolutely.
But Michael Pittman is going to be on the field. He's going to be out there wide on the field. This is a guy who should have a decent amount of targets go his way, could easily have 1,000 yards again. Never been a huge touchdown guy. Volume has been, the key to success for Pittman. But right now in the 11th round, even if it's not insane volume, like I know he's not some stud, ridiculous alpha, but he's a solid football player in the NFL. So the fact that I can get him in the 11th round right now at 11.05, I'll press the button, a bunch of times. And he had a backiotomy last year, right? He was out there with a back, he was playing. So I think there's a really good opportunity here. Pittman's had 100. He had last year, he had 106 targets. The year before that, 150. Year before that, 139, 124. He's 88 receptions, 99 receptions, 109 receptions, 69 receptions. Like, I only need my man to, catch 70, 80 balls for 1,000 yards to pay off 11th round ADP, right? And what if the situation vastly improves? This offense could be really, really awesome. There's a good offensive line there. There's a good running back. There's all of a sudden they drafted a really fun tight end. Downs is apparently the best receiver in football. So you put Pittman on the outside. You got A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce who can do some different things. If you've got some relatively decent quarterback play, this offense could explode. So I'm very much pressing the button on Michael Pittman right now in a lot of formats too. This stands with like same thing I was saying with Olave. Like best ball, he's pretty cheap. Redraft, he's pretty cheap. Everybody's just on the Josh Downs things, which I'm fine with. Draft him. I'll draft Josh Downs too. I'll draft both of them. I don't care. I'll draft Tyler Lockett, all three of them. I don't even mind. But so that's another one for me. You got another rapid fire player here that you would.
Yeah, it's gross. Jake Ferguson.
Oh, love it. Oh,
yeah, it's gross.
Automatic.
It's gross.
Tight end premium for sure.
Tight end premium is where I just can't get out of my head that he was one of the leaders in end zone targets in 2023. And, he went over 100 targets that year. The offense was functioning at a high clip until it wasn't. And so we got all the boys back together and we've added George Pickens to the fold. Dak Prescott should be healthy. He's going to be a part of this offense. He's going into a contract year. So they're probably trying to get him the rock to get him paid. So he's going to be a functioning part of the offense. I'm not terribly concerned about Schoonmaker or Brevin Spann-Ford as target competition. I mean, I was looking at something on Fantasy Points data not too long ago, and he led the position in missed tackles forced amongst tight ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and missed tackles forced per attempt. I mean, he just hasn't had the touchdown volume. So yeah, Jake Ferguson for me is a guy that I was high on, that I soured on because last year didn't go my way. Now I got to stop being a baby back bitch and give him one more chance because he's in the 12th round.
Baby back. Yeah, no, he was Dak's guy. He crushes the middle of the field. Now you put Pickens and CD out there. Yep. Dak's between Ferg being hurt and Dak being hurt, it just we haven't gotten quite back to fully docked with each other. So
right.
I like it. I'm going to throw out a couple more here, rapid fire. I mean, Travis Etienne, the propaganda on this show won't end. 10th round. We've been talking about Travis Etienne all year. Like, I think he's going to come out and get the chance to be the RB1 in this offense. And we've talked about Canales and we talked about Leon Cohen. Like, if that guy's your RB1 and he ends up being the guy, there's going to be some volume there. And I think he can, volume will be a friend to Travis Etienne and Tyrone Tracy as well at 10:08. Anytime we're talking about who we like in these later rounds, we feel obligated to bring those guys up. Cedric Tillman's another one that we've been pumping up all since November of last year. We've been pumping up Ceddy Till coming in at 1301. So your favorite podcasters, favorite podcast, they've gotten a hold of that and everybody's running with Ceddy Till now. But
it's so annoying, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It kind of pisses me off a little bit.
But here we are. And then Xavier Legette at 1307. I like the offense for them moving forward. And I think bringing in Tet frees up Xavier Legette to maybe do some different things for them. Just, spam some overs, get him deep, screen him. And I think, I really like what Legette could possibly do for this team. And he's super cheap. And, Bryce taking a step forward. You got anything else? Because I got one more to wrap this up.
Yeah, Jordan Mason. Yeah, Jordan Mason. I think they paid him real running back money. I think he could be the goal line guy. And I mean, he has enough burst and explosiveness to actually have a little bit of standalone value. So yeah, Jordan Mason for me is a great pick in the 13th round. 13-12 is where he's going.
Yeah. This gives the line or the Vikings a different identity when they run the ball. They got a rookie quarterback. Mason can give you that hammer that they've just been missing right now on offense. It just gives Mason comes out there and makes you feel him, right? And he plays with his hair on fire. And let's not pretend Aaron Jones hasn't missed time at times through his career. I don't like to play that game too much, but you see that hairline.
How much time you got, buddy?
Moving that, just keeps signifying he keeps getting a year older, right?
Hey, careful now.
Them hamstrings getting, they get tighter and tighter as you. I mean, I'm old. My hamstrings are tight as fuck. Ramondre's right above Jordan Mason, so I lied. I got two. I'll take Ramondre in the 13th round. I think Ramondre is going to have a role as long as he doesn't fumble it away. Same thing with Tyrone Tracy. We brought him up earlier. Those guys have ball security. I think they have a big role all season.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Last but not least, I'm going to get in trouble by Jason because this episode's too long for his pleasure. I want to throw Sammy D out there. I know not your favorite guy, Chev, and I'm sure not really a lot of people's favorite guy. Everyone thinks 1 year wonder, and maybe it was, right? Maybe it was a 1 year wonder, but we're talking about a quarterback here at 908 who, got paid. There's some outs and ins, and, they padded themselves the Seahawks did around some incentives, and they can get in and out of this contract if they want to. And he was cheaper than Geno Smith, so I think it was a good move by them. But everyone, they're giving the KOC all the credit. Me and Big Co just talked about this the other day. KOC getting the credit as quarterback whisperer, bringing people back. But if you go back one more stop before that, he was in San Fran, right? And that's really where things started changing for Sam, right? And what's this offense that they're going to run in Seattle? What's that going to be? He's really, really familiar with how this offense is going to be run. Clint Kubiak and the Kubiaks and the Shanahans are tied at the hip. Mm-hmm. They've been that way since Mike and I'm drawing a blank on the dads on Gary are boys, right? Mm-hmm. Shanahan and the King and the Kingsbury, the give me the Kubiaks, they have a lot of similar concepts. So Sam, it's not like Sam's starting new and fresh. Like he's going to come right in here. Sam's best throws were off play action last year. The Niners, a whole thing is built off play action. The Seahawks, their whole things are going to be built off of play action, right? That's just how a lot of that Kubiak Shanahan system really wants to operate. They want to bring out those. We talked about it on the Olave, how the sets were going to be different for New Orleans, and they were different from what Olave had seen most of his career last year. Well, now all that's going to Seattle, and from what Seattle was doing last year, running the most 11, which is why Grubb doesn't have a job. Although I like Grubb, I think he's a good coach. He's back at Bama with his guy, but I think Sam's going to have a really good understanding of how this offense should be run, where the ball's supposed to go, when it's supposed to go, where and how. And I think that's really going to help him have control of this team, have control of a huddle, be a good leader in a new spot a little more quickly. And I think that's what the head coach is looking for right now. And I think Sam can play right into that. So I think in the 9th round, a guy like Sam Darnold, I think he's got a really good chance to probably not replicate some of the stuff he did last year, but be a solid QB2 for most of the year for your super flex teams.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the fact that you can get him as your QB3, or if you whatever you decide to do, if he's your second quarterback, I typically like to have both of my quarterbacks by this range, but you can get him as a QB3. And if he just performs close to what he did last year, you're going to be able to sell him at a profit. So I'm with you there. I haven't been the biggest Sam Darnold guy, but I do see a path to where he's resurrected his career in the vein of a Geno Smith or a Baker Mayfield. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. That's really my main point is like, I think people think he's going to somewhere where, it was Kevin O'Connell and this is all the guys around him. Well, I mean, he does have JSN and he has Cooper Kupp, and like, it's not the worst ever. And he's got a good running system, but he's familiar with this style of system. He just came from it. And that was what really, you don't think Kevin O'Connell and Shanahan are good buddies? Like, you don't think he was like, hey, the Niners wanted to keep him. And they were like, we'll take Sam. We know what's going on over here. And then he blew up with KOC, but he's really resurrected in San Fran. And Seattle is going to have a lot of ties to kind of what they do. So anyway, let's wrap this one up. We're going to go over to the avoids section of this to get you guys all hot and bothered. But until next time, I'm Casey. That's Chev. Hey, make sure you go check out Chev on Twitter. Download the League Champ app and any of your platforms of choice. But make sure you go do that, right?
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate it.
You got to go get it's free. Go play. It's awesome. It's fun. Go check it out. Make sure you're downloading it. If you haven't, why haven't you? It's a good logo too. I don't know who came up with the duck, but I like it.
Wasn't me.
Well, shout out to him. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time. Peace.